the start of the game was, you can imagine when we was 2-0 down, I was thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? We've still got to finish this season and we've got to play Newcastle, who are trying to come for us as well. So as disappointed as it's been up to this point, Kels, you feel what is going on with our team. We were so off them. The first goal, the marking, everything, the tracking, but everything was just wrong. You're thinking, what is going on? I was doing it here. And then, I said here, I was doing a game, and I said, then something needs to happen at half-time because this is unacceptable, this performance with what's on the line.
Yeah.
So you have to say, I was really pleased to see them show that kind of like grit in the second half and find it themselves to get something out of that game.
I suppose the concern and the accusation maybe that will be levelled at Arsenal is it's all well and good showing a bit of grit when you're 2-0 down in a game that doesn't have any significance on the outcome of the title race. Where they need to show it is in semi-finals, in finals, in the last few games of the season when there is a title still on the line.
When you're in that dressing room and you come to those games and you haven't done it, yes, it does weigh on you. And of course you want to try and take the final step, but what we're seeing, for whatever reasons, I'm not going to use injuries or anything, for whatever reason you get to this stage of the season and you're trying to get over the line, there's not much more you can do in respect of trying. And mentally and physically, I think that they're done. I think that they've gone as far as they can go. And when you come up against the quality of the PSG and you don't take charge, it just gets to a stage where, yes, you do question yourself, because you think, why can't we get over the line? Why can't we finish it off? And it's something that will always be levelled at Arsenal until they do it. So again, as tough as it is to swallow, you have to try and find a way to go again, Kels. So we do need to buy players. We do need a striker at some stage. It's like Gary Neville said, it is 7 years. We do need to have that player that can finish those chances, that gives us a footing in the game, so as then we're not chasing a game. These are the things that we have to start doing now. The injuries what we're having, we have to sort out. Do we need to make sure that we can get our players out there and they can last? So the last step, Kels, what I'd say is being in the dressing room, watching players go through the agonising like mental strain that takes to try and win it. That's why it's so hard to win. That's why it's so frustrating.
I look at that I always look from the manager's point of view at what could Mikel Arteta do better, not just for that game, but over the period of the season. I don't see anything. I really don't. I don't see anything what he could affect his team with, that group of players, to get them over the line to win the Champions League and to win the Premier League. I think he's been let down by recruitment. Now, he might be part of that. He may be. Obvious and glaringly obvious that they need an out-and-out striker, but they need a little bit more than that as well. They need a few more dotted around the squad. Versatile players who can come in with the quality of his starting 11. Most teams in the Champions League now, and certainly in the final, they have a way of playing, and these players can come in off the bench and they can affect it.
Inter Milan.
He hasn't got that. It's almost like when he needs to make a change, it's like a total contrast of a player coming onto the pitch, and they have to tweak everything to try and fit him in. I think he needs help.
You see it, Kels. We're bringing on Calafiori, we're bringing on Zinchenko, we're bringing on defenders. We've got an 18-year-old 1 year. He's supposed to come on and change these big games.
Midfield striker.
That's what I'm saying. Those are the things that we need to think about now. And
they do have a bigger squad, but they have a lot of soft tissue injuries.
Again, this is something else they're going to have to look at. Because obviously all teams can say about the injuries they've had, but I'd like to think that Arsenal would do better if we had some of those guys at least fit. Look, all of our forwards are gone. All of them are out of that team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it's Havertz, Jesus, all of them out. Saka, 3 months.
These are all valid points. But when Mikel Arteta was interviewed after the Paris Saint-Germain game, he said that he thought Arsenal had been the best team in Europe this season. Is that encouraging for Arsenal, or is it more worrying that even when they've been the best team, they still can't get to the not even win it, but get to the final?
Yeah, a bit of both, because when you are on top, you should make it count, and they didn't do that against PSG, home and away. I think it's also the fact that he wanted to say this is not a bad season. It's a semi-final of the Champions League, probably another second place in the league, but second place in the best league in the world is not as good as first. It's not that bad either. And I think he doesn't want this season to go down into being negative and people saying like, oh, it's no trophy, so everything is bad. Not everything is bad. There's a lot of things to sort out for sure.
It's about whether there was progress from last season to this. And if Newcastle beat Arsenal next weekend, then Arsenal finish in third place.
Because if we're talking about like points tally, obviously we've regressed.
Yeah.
You know, and points, you know, we've regressed with everything what's happened. But there is a reason for that. We've lost players that he's counting on, and like I say, everybody has that problem, but it's really affected us without a shadow of a doubt. He's tried to not use it as an excuse. Sometimes listening to his interviews afterwards, and I was saying to you earlier, okay, maybe have half an hour. Yeah. Have half an hour, think about what you're going to say, because obviously the line about being the best team in the Champions League has not gone down well. Yeah. I think that we done well in those games from Real Madrid, even Paris. We should have taken chances to go over the line, but we didn't do it. Can't quite take that last step, Kels.
It's very difficult, you know, when you step out of that, the emotion of the dressing room, you just address the players, and you're going into that press conference. I mean, I was the world's worst at it. I mean, I'll just say it just come out.
No,
you know, the emotion's there, and he's getting a lot more experience than I had, but. You just wear your heart on the sleeve, and sometimes you wish you hadn't said it, you know. But then once they're out there, you can't get them words back, you know. So I feel for him, I really do, because he wants to win more than anyone. I mean, all them fans.
It's very easy for people to point the finger, though, calling us names. It's very easy to do that, but you can see they're at full tilt trying to get this done.
But the point is that they. You know, usually when teams have, or previously when teams in the Premier League era have pushed and they've been in the mix, they've won a title somewhere in the mix. And because Manchester City are not at Manchester City's levels, this was the season to capitalise. When that happened previously, they've been going head-to-head with Liverpool. Liverpool won the title, again by a significant margin, when City slipped back. They've done it again, and Arsenal didn't do it in this season, and I think that's maybe where the finger of concern is being pointed.
No, not at him. It can't be.
Whatever.
I think
and
the manager, the buck stops with him. The worst thing can happen. They make a change now. They make a change to that squad. Someone else comes in, tries to reinvent it. Or my fear would be, if I was Mikel, they bring in someone. All of a sudden, there's different facets to management. He's obviously a very good coach, very good on the training in the training ground, in and around. He has a good relationship with the players. But perhaps what he's not good at is convincing the owners and the money men to spend the money in this direction. Now, that is a facet of management. Someone might be able to, bully him's the wrong word, but aggressively convince someone that we need a striker. Unless we get that striker, when you go into a club, you're always at your strongest. They could get someone in there now who says to Berta, the new sporting director, this is what I need and I want it now and I want to make sure we get it. And they could get that player, and all of a sudden, they don't need much surgery, Arsenal. There are a few players. They are 2 or 3 players away from winning the Premier League.
You know, the thing is, you say that about, I believe he can say to the owners, because that's what happened with Declan Rice.
Yeah.
They didn't want him. He says, I want him, and I want to pay that money for him. And like, he's made 100 and whatever his million look like nothing.
Yeah.
Because Mikel can go and do that. This is why you're hoping that, it's the last summer what's cost us really, Kels, in what we should have bought maybe. That's maybe was the big mistake was made in that recruitment. But like now, I think it's telling on us. So this summer, with Andrea Berta now at the helm, we'll see what he does. I'm hearing Zubimendi's. I think it's going to be a massive summer.
Zubimendi is coming in midfield to strengthen that midfield. You lose Jorginho, maybe Partey. But the thing is, those signings have to have an immediate impact. You can't bring Sesko from Germany and you need 6 months to adapt, because 6 months would be too late. By then, you might be 10 points behind Liverpool and 12 or 15 behind City, or the other way around. Whoever you bring in now, whether it's a Premier League proven player, striker, Isak, somebody else, or Gyökeres, Sesko, whoever you want, they have to hit the ground running straight away. Otherwise, there's almost no point.
No guarantee. No matter how much that player.
But just don't get it wrong.
But they have to bring in a ready-made player, not a potential.
I think so.
Before you could let somebody. Here you go. Pires needed a bit of time to adapt to English football. No problem. Thierry a little bit. Right now you can't have.
I think what we can't afford to do, Tim. Sorry, Tim. What we can't afford to do is take a chance on. You know, you might buy a Nunez or a Højlund. I don't think Arsenal can afford to pay that much money and they don't have a return. That's what you're saying, right? And that is why it's so difficult to find that player, Kels, because them 2 guys they paid a lot of money for potential, and we have to go to that next place.
But some of
that's going to cost us.
There's no guarantee. You know, some players, Soldado, I can use a good example. He's like a record goal scorer in Spain. I mean, he's really struggled. Really struggled in an unpressurized environment. Really, who wasn't chasing the big prize, which is to win the
And it opened
Premier
the
League.
door for homegrown talent and Harry Kane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's why you either got something through your academy, or they've got a fantastic academy there at Arsenal. There's something, but you're going to have to wait for them, and they can't play every single game. Wannieri, I love his approach at the moment. Wannieri sitting on the bench with a face like thunder because Xhaka's back. He wants to play. I admire that. I love all that, and he will be a superstar for the future of the football club. But you need someone. So what we're saying is, to eliminate the big risk, you have someone who's already played in the Premier League.
Yeah.
For me, I think there's one no-brainer up there, but I think they need a few more. I think Liam Delap is the answer for me, because he's a development player. He will come in there. They can progress him. He's already played, rehearsed, scored a lot of goals in a very poor Ipswich side this year in the Premier League. For him, just tick that box. Whatever it's going to cost, £30 million. It's nothing in these days. A cup of tea in terms of signings in the Premier League, and then go and maybe get another one. At least you've got a body who plays in that position, and you haven't got to force someone to play out of position to try and put the jigsaw together.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer for Arsenal, as you say, as they try to find those last couple of pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's not much point really in looking at Liverpool's performance at this stage of the season, and we'll be talking a lot more between now and the end of the season about what they need to do over the summer. One of the things they're going to have to do.
Arsenal need one more point to confirm Champions League football again for next season following their defeat earlier this week in its semi-finals, but they still have work to do to secure the runners-up position in the Premier League for a third year running. Newcastle United are their next opponents in a week's time, and after their 2-0 defeat of Chelsea earlier on Sunday, there are just 2 points separating them in third place and Arsenal in second. 2 losses, 6 draws, and just 3 wins in Arsenal's past 11 league games see them at risk of surrendering a position that has seemed to be theirs for months. Recent results elsewhere have helped keep Arteta's side in second until now, with Newcastle drawing last weekend and Manchester City being held on Saturday by last-place Southampton, but next Sunday at the Emirates Stadium is now critical to ensuring they don't allow this season to end in a whimper. On 68 points with 2 games to play, they are 2 ahead of Newcastle and 3 clear of City. Arsenal's second-half recovery at Anfield showed they still have some fight left in them, but Newcastle's visit may be more difficult after Marino's red card today, and with Trossard appearing to pick up a knock before he went off with 12 minutes of the 90 to go. 6 days after Trent Alexander-Arnold announced that he will leave Liverpool this summer, his introduction as a substitute and many of his touches once he was on the pitch were booed by some fans in a 2-2 draw against Arsenal at Anfield. The Premier League champions went 2-0 up in Sunday's first half through 2 goals in as many minutes from Cody Gakpo and Luis Diaz, as Arsenal's defence looked uncharacteristically shaky. But Mikel Arteta's side rallied after the break, pulling one back through Gabriel Martinelli in the 47th minute and then drawing level with 20 minutes to go when Mikel Merino was played onside by Alexander-Arnold and scored past Alisson. Merino was sent off soon after for a lunging tackle on Darwin Núñez that brought his second yellow card of the afternoon. In added time, Andy Robertson thought he had scored a late winner for Orange Slot's new league champions, but the goal was ruled out for a foul by Ibrahim Konate on Miles Lewis-Skelly. The draw means Arsenal are 2 points clear of third-place Newcastle United with 2 matches each remaining, and they face Eddie Howe's side in North London next Sunday. Greg Evans, Art de Rock and Mark Carey analyse the key talking points from Anfield.